on the broadcast, we have myself, Kieran Kerr, General Manager with IMGS. In another room here in IMGS, Tony Kent, our Applications Engineer and FME Professional and Trainer, is going to be talking and doing all the hard work in the demonstrations. Are you there, Tony?
Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah. And we also are delighted to have Stewart Harper, who is the Technical Director for Cloud Services for Safe Software. Hey Stewart, you there?
Hi there, how are you doing?
Yeah, so that's good. So we're gonna kick off in a couple of minutes, and yeah, people are joining, so we get going. So what's the weather like in the UK, Stuart?
It's all right, actually. Pleasantly grey as usual.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's usually grey in Ireland, but yeah, it's very grey today. That's par for the course. We get a lot of grey skies.
Yeah, it's dry at least.
Yeah. That's a nice September anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to kill that. Okay. So is our Safe busy with the 2015 release? When is it due out, Stuart?
Yeah, so it's due out in January, I think about January the 15th, but yeah, I think we freeze the code in about 6 weeks, so all the developers are madly developing for code freeze, and then we used to have a DVD print date of early December, but that obviously doesn't exist anymore, so that buys us a little bit more time, so we don't need to send the products off to print. Yeah, we stopped checking high-risk things in about 6 weeks.
Okay, so yeah, you keep going to pretty much towards the end of the year.
Yeah, we have to, yeah. And yeah, it's looking good though.
Yeah, and there's no more service packs for 2014. That's
there is now, I think there is an SP4. Has that been released yet? That's any day. It might have been just released.
Okay.
But that's very much fixing bugs. Some service packs have had a few new features sneak in, but SP4 is just
bug fix.
Just bug fixes, yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, looking forward to it. And what's any highlights or any tidbits on what's coming on 2015?
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of work doing on this kind of on format sides, on extending BIM support. I don't know if you've used building information models. There's work on 3D side of things. What else have we got? They've basically moved the interface design, like the technology under FME Workbench, to a completely new programming language. So expect things like resizing transformers, a much slicker interface, maturing Mac support as well, and Linux support, and then also lots around the cloud formats, adding new cloud formats. So there's new readers going in to do with like Google Drive and Box and all that kind of thing as well.
Okay, yeah. So and what was it Microsoft language and now going off the Microsoft, is it?
Well, I think actually we're moving to something called Qt, which is basically so we can just write it once and it's the same code for Mac, Linux, Windows, rather than I think we used Delphi before and a few other things. I'm not sure. It's kind of bodged together a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, and that's good. It's going to have the multi-platform. We don't get as many users over here off the Windows platforms, but it is growing. You do get now the odd Mac user in local authorities and utilities who are using it. So it is a growing demand, and there is a push on the Linux side, definitely because of open source developments and that. So yeah, I think it's good that there's going to be multi-platform. I think that'll be useful in the years to come.
Yeah, definitely. And FME Cloud actually runs on Linux.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
In fact, but the FME servers running in FME Cloud are all on Linux. So the Linux, I think we filed over 100 bugs on Linux this year, and they're all getting fixed because it's for FME Cloud. So Linux on FME server has dramatically improved over the last 7 or 8 months.
Okay, yeah, well, it's funny, like when even Microsoft run their websites on Linux servers, it does kind of tell you they're a little bit more stable than the Microsoft
Yeah,
servers.
yeah, exactly. You can launch a Linux instance in Windows Azure now in their cloud platform.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's definitely taken off. I think here in Ireland we've an ongoing problem where the government are having to pay X hundred million to Microsoft for continuing with XP support, and it's a
Oh
big
wow,
drive.
yeah.
Yeah, a big driver to get off XP, and it wouldn't take much for people to kind of say, well, yeah, we might be better off on Linux. But yeah, I say there will be people making decisions around that area in the future because
That's
it's
interesting,
expensive.
yeah.
Yeah, it's expensive. It's an expensive problem, and a lot of applications are still running on IE8. So we still have a lot of issues over here with old legacy applications only support IE8, can't go up, can't get off XP. So it's causing a major headache. I think it's starting to get sorted out, but it's a bit of a problem.
Interesting, yeah, we were actually talking about dropping support for IE8 in the next FME server just because to use the latest technologies that we want to use to build the product in, it's just there's no support for IE8 anymore, and it's such a big pain. We're almost doubling the code base to support it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, no, we have the same problem. We have a few applications on it, but yeah, I think I'd say you'd be okay because I think by next year, any agency that's still on IE8 is going to have some serious problems from a security point of view because they won't be getting patches, and B, yeah, there'll be very little applications left. So I think no one will be supporting it. So I think most of them will be forced out of IE8 by next year. There's a big drive. I know over here there's a big drive. There's a big drive to kill all those IE8 machines. Any government agencies anyway are trying to get rid of them all. So
that's
they're
good.
not. They're compliant then. Okay, so I think we're getting close to starting. Uh, yeah. Okay, well, maybe in case a few more people have just arrived and are arriving as we speak, so I'll do some introductions first just to get us started. So yeah, my name is Kieran Kirk. I'm the General Manager with IMGS. IMGS are a Safe Software Gold Partner for Ireland. I think we have a few people outside of Ireland on this call today. So we're the Gold Partner for Safe for Ireland and distributor for FME in Ireland. With me today I have Tony Kent, who is our FME certified professional and trainer, and I have also our organizer, Amanda Donegan, who's keeping an eye on things in the background. Amanda will also be keeping an eye on any questions you may raise. So all the attendees are in listen-only mode, but you can write questions in the little panel in the WebEx in the corner, and then we'll handle those questions at the end. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Stewart Harper, who is the Technical Director with Cloud Services for Safe Software. So Stuart's going to join us today, and he's going to talk to us about FME and FME Cloud and FME Server. And then Tony and myself are going to cover some FME workflows for local government and how these can be used both on FME Desktop, FME Server, and also we'll be showing them in FME Cloud and how you can actually work with IMGS on using this FME Cloud. So I'll hand over to Stewart to say hello and to and start on his part of the presentation, if that's okay with Stewart.
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, Kieran. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to talk through FME in general, what FME is. I'll kind of assume that you have limited knowledge of what FME is. I'll take about 10 minutes to walk through that, and then Kieran and Tony will take over with some demos. Okay, can you see the first slide there, all right, Kieran, the About Safe Software slide?
Yeah, I can see it, founded in 1993.
Perfect. I've done that one before and done the whole presentation on the first slide, so I thought I'd better make sure. Yeah, so FME, the technology we talk about is FME, Feature Manipulation Engine. It stands for, a little bit outdated now, but the company is Safe Software. So we're located in Vancouver in Canada. We've been founded for over 20 years ago now, 1993. The first format was called SAFE, spelled S-A-I-F, and they actually they decided they would go Safe Software because they bought the safe.com domain. They thought, oh, we might as well hedge our bets. Maybe we'll have more than one format, so they went with safe.com instead of SAIF. And now we have over 10,000 customers worldwide. And one of those being, and then we use the partner model basically to resell our software. IMGS being one of those partners, and they help us, with the local relationships and selling the product into their local markets, which works really well for us. So what I'm going to do now is talk through, give you a brief overview of what FME is, what the FME platform can offer you, and then also a walkthrough of our products, desktop, server, and cloud. So FME is all about connecting, transforming, automating workflows. So imagine you have, you have silos of data everywhere, either in applications or in databases or even in just standard text files sat all over disparate systems. With FME, you can use FME to basically connect those different silos, bring those silos together as one. You can manipulate the data, you can transform the data as you need, and you can also automate these workflows that you build by using FME Server and FME Cloud. So we really, with FME, we want you to basically create harmony between the data and the applications that you have. We want you to be able to pull data between CAD departments and GIS departments and move data seamlessly between these departments with minimal barriers. We want you to be able to provide your end users, be it other departments or the general public, we want you to be able to give access to your data to those different groups of people as easy as possible. So that's kind of a high level what we want from FME. That's the technology, that's the platform, and we have a key set of capabilities around that FME platform. So we want to be able to let you convert data. That might be from as simple as going from shape to tabs, so someone who's using Esri can use MapInfo instead. It might be something much more complicated like migrating an ArcSDE database over to Oracle Spatial. So that's data conversion, simply moving data from one format to the other. Data transformation involves manipulating the data and massaging the data. Now the core competency of FME and Safe Software has always been spatial data. That's what we built the company around. That's transforming data with location, be it Esri, MapInfo, Intergraph, all those different GIS companies. That was our bread and butter. We've now moved out of that and we support a much broader range of formats. So when I'm talking about data transformation, I'm talking about manipulating the tabular data, doing things like joining data, cleaning columns, renaming columns, and I'm also talking about doing geometric operations on the data as well to transform it. An example might be you may be storing data in one system with polygons, and you want to move that data into a system that doesn't support polygons. So you'd have to translate that geometry into polylines and somehow represent that data differently in the other system. You can use FME to do those transformations on the data. Then we have data integration. That's kind of the result of data conversion, data transformation, allowing packages to talk to one another. Our strongest story for many years has been, GIS and CAD and allowing systems like AutoCAD to talk with GIS systems. But we're now talking about data integration on a little bit of a bigger scale. We've got the cloud formats coming in and cloud applications, and allowing you to basically connect all those applications together. Then we've got data sharing and validation as well, which I'll talk about in a little bit more detail. So we have 300 supported formats. You can see here, really from the top left, GIS, CAD, raster, point cloud is being improved greatly, 3D, BIM, we've got cloud formats, and of course databases as well. Interestingly, the one slide around non-spatial, I don't actually really like that word non-spatial. It's tabular data, and really it's most data in the world. We're becoming extremely competent in this field. The Excel reader and writer now is very, very powerful and kind of an industry leader. And we can also read a whole bunch of cloud data sets as well that are all tabular. But format is not enough. As I said, you can't just move data between a GIS system and a CAD system, for example, just by saying, hey, I want to go from shape to DWG or SDE to DWG. You have to think about the data model and the data transformation problem. You know, what schema are you going to bring across? How are you going to do your schema mapping? Do you need to compress the data? Do you want to tidy the data? So transformation's at the heart of what FME does. And we use this graphical user interface called FME Workbench to build our transformations, to restructure the geometry, to map the schema, and to manipulate the data content. Data sharing, you know, this is a key capability within local government. You may want to just share data with other departments, or you may have an open data initiative where you have to share data with the general public. Well, FME Server in particular is very, very good at enabling data sharing, allowing people to get at the data in the format they want, specifically, you know, when they want it. They can go anytime to a website and download the data. And the data can all be customized and delivered to them in the specific requirements that they're looking for. So data sharing is a key component. And then data integration. I mean, this is, I think Kieran's going to talk a little bit about this in his slides as well, but pulling data in from different applications or different data silos, massaging the data, manipulating the data, and then getting it in a format and structure that is ready for your preferred application. So that's a really critical workflow of FME, and it's an extremely powerful thing you can do to optimize your workflows and save a lot of time and money. Data validation is one that's come out over the past few years with the advent of FME Server. So imagine before, how did you get people to load data into your infrastructure? Maybe you have a big Oracle spatial database and you want people to load data into that database. Well, do they phone you up and send you the data? Do they send you on a DVD? Do they, you know, what you can do with FME Server is provide a workflow, be it a mobile application or a website, where a user can go and upload data to your infrastructure. Essentially, a workspace runs that you built, a data validation workspace runs, checks the validity of the data, and then based on the you know, the quality of that data, you either load it into a database, or usually a staging database actually, or you'd send them an email back or something saying, hey, the data's failed, you can't load it in for these reasons. So it's real-time feedback on data that's been trying to be loaded into the system, and not only are you maintaining quality, but there's no human involvement needed to do the QA on the data. So it's very powerful. So quick run through of our products: desktop, server, and cloud. Desktop is, you know, the heart of the products. This is where you author your workflows. It's a simple GUI. Server, you take these workflows and it's taking the workflows to the enterprise. You create services out of them essentially, and you can automate everything. And then cloud is a new version of server that's a hosted version. So with FME Server, if you purchase FME Server off IMGS, you'll have to download the installer from our website, and they'll help you set everything up. And you know, you need your own dedicated hardware to install the server on, and you're also going to need someone to look after that server. With FME Cloud, you just go into our website, you click Launch Instance, it launches an instance, it takes about 10 minutes, and you have FME Server running. And the other interesting thing is it's pay-on-demand pricing is FME Cloud. So with Server, there's a capital expense up front. With Cloud, it's like a pay-as-you-go mobile phone. It's an hourly rate for using the server. So there's a lot of benefits around Cloud. So this is desktop. Everything starts with Workbench. This is where you author your workflows. You know, we have the readers on the left, the writers on the right, and all of the blue transformers in the middle to manipulate the data. Then we have the data inspector at the bottom there, and so you can see, you can inspect any of the data sets in here. So this is nice if you want to inspect a tab file but you don't have map info, no problem, you can open it in the data inspector and look at the data. It's not a GIS, the data inspector, it's just a way of, you know, doing very precise, in detail look at the data. So that's a great tool as well that's packaged with FME Desktop. server then allows you to take these workflows and basically make them available as a service via a website, a web application. So you can do many things with FME Server. You can provide self-service access web applications. So this is really good if you want to participate in open data. You can basically build a web application that allows a user to go there, choose the data they want in the coordinate system they want, in the format they want, order the data. FME pulls in real time the data out of your database, converts it on the fly, and then emails it to the end user. You can also schedule all the workflows so that you can basically schedule a workflow to run every other Tuesday or every night or once a year or once a month. So if you want to automate your workflows, FME Server is the tool. And you can also deliver data how it's needed. You send push notifications to mobile phones, you can send emails, you can upload data to FTP, you can stream data via WebSockets. There's a whole bunch of ways you can deliver data to the end user exactly how they need it. So that's kind of how Server wraps around that by adding the value of the delivery mechanism. And then, yeah, FME Cloud's a hosted version of FME Server. It's a new product. You can see it on our website. It's very easy to use. You get $250 of credit, so you can try it out for free. It's pay per hour. I think it starts at $1 an hour for one machine, and it goes up to $12 an hour for the biggest machine. There's a whole host of other benefits as well. You can change the size of the machine you're running from a small machine to a large machine in about 30 seconds. You can resize the disk in a web interface. You can see monitoring around, all of how the server's performing and things like that. And we're going to have an FME Cloud webinar at the start of October, the 2nd of October, I believe. So here, so you can sign into that to hear more about it. So yeah, any more questions for me? We're going to have questions at the end, I believe, as well, and I'll be around for that. But this is how you contact me if you'd like to contact me. I think what I'm going to do now is, well, first I can answer any questions now if you want from Kieran or Tony, but I'll hand things back over to Kieran to run through his specific local government workflows for you.
No problem. Thanks, Stuart. If you can hand over presenter rights to me. Yeah, no, I think we'll take questions at the end if that's okay. We'll we'll know how much time we have. But yeah, that's great. So have I? Yep, show my screen. So everybody can see my screen now. Yep, I'm getting a thumbs up. So okay, thanks everybody, and thanks Stuart for a very good introduction into FME, FME Server, and FME Cloud. And really, when you hear people hear Stuart talking about moving data, converting it, all these different data formats, conversion, integration, loading, that's really just the definition of what local authorities do, local government agencies do with spatial data all the time. So so really what we thought was we would pick out some of the key issues that local authorities are facing and then show some demonstrate, and Antonio then demonstrates some of the workflows that we can put together with FME Server, FME Cloud, and FME Desktop. So the challenges that local governments are facing is they have multiple departments with lots of data silos. So as I mentioned, you've got lots of different departments who are running lots of different silos of data, in some cases in different formats. So you might have a planning department that's using Esri data, you might have a roads department which is using GMedia data, and you have to be able to bring that information together. So you've got these file shares, you've got databases, you've got to have a way of integrating that data. And as Stuart mentioned, that these days it's spatial data, but you've also got a lot of non-spatial data that also needs to be integrated either with your spatial data or with other non-spatial data sets. And the other big thing local authorities face is there's lots of data coming in and going out to third-party agencies. And again, this is where something like FME Cloud just fits in really well, is you've got data being sent in from utilities, sent in from other government agencies, and it's up to local authorities to provide information back to these agencies. And again, they have to sometimes provide the data in a schema that is predefined. So when you're publishing information to, say, open data initiatives or to Inspire initiatives, well, you have to provide that data in a certain format and in a certain schema. And local authorities have to meet these challenges with ever-decreasing resources. So not only do they have to do this work with the same amount of work as ever before, but with less people, with less money, and in some cases there's now a big driver to also decrease tin or to decrease the hardware they're using. So they get rid of servers, they get rid of extra machinery because that's extra cost. So something like FME Cloud, which provides you with an online service that you can use, actually fits in very well with the initiatives that are going on in local government at the minute. So the first example workflow that we want to look at is utility road opening requests. So this is really just an example of data coming into a local authority that has to be checked, that then has to be processed, and has to be provided to a department. So in this case, utilities will send in Ireland to local authorities CAD or map info drawings of proposed road openings in pretty much any format, but a drawing outlining where they're proposing to dig up the road. They're making a request to do this, so then the local authority has to be able to take that data in, and some of the problems that they may encounter is sometimes we come across data that hasn't been geo-referenced correctly, or it could even be that the utility has sent a request into the wrong local authority area. So they're, for example, looking to open up a road in Dunleary, but actually they sent a request into Dublin City Council. So they need to be able to check this data automatically and make sure it's in the right area, and even maybe corresponds with the address that they've filled in on the form to say that's where they're going to dig up. Also, as I said, you get different file formats coming in, and the local authority will have a core GIS system that they want that data converted to. And even when you do use CAD formats, you may also get differing layer structures. So the road opening boundary could be on layer 5 for one utility, and it could be on layer 10 for another utility. And again, this data in a lot of cases is sent in via emails, or these days could be via, drop boxes or shares or whatever, but the data is coming in and you want a way to automatically pick that up. This is where we see FME Cloud, an FME Cloud workflow that comes in here to help. So it'll be able to automatically catch the email, then extract the data out of the email, run a validation to make sure that it is correct, it's in the right area, and then transform it back to a format that the local authority need. So, each local authority could have it stored in their own format and send it back to the local authority for use. And then from there, they can actually either, if it's ready for use, they can process the request, or if the data is invalid or is missing something or whatever, they can then actually send it back to the utility and say, listen, we need more information. And the aim of the FME workflow is to automate this process as much as possible, and really just to ensure that the local authority staff member only has to get involved once the data is ready, once it's in its right format, and once it's available in their back office system. So I'm just going to switch over to Tony, who's going to show you a demonstration of this and show you the FME workflow.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran. So what I'm going to mainly focus on is the local authorities who are receiving the road opening requests, and in particular I'm going to show how they can be processed by sending an email. So I'll just flick to my first workspace here. So in this instance, I'm going to run everything through FME Cloud rather than a FME server. So I have my FME Cloud instance running here, and you can see it. It's got the same web user interface as a FME server. It actually says welcome to FME server on it as well. And this is actually running on Linux as well, as the guy spoke about there before the webinar started. So I'm just going to talk through my workspaces a little bit. Actually, I'll just talk through my source data first. So the data we're going to be looking at today is, well, what I have is some prime 2 data from the Dundalk area in County Louth and kind of the eastern side of Ireland. So you can see it's kind of a huge area around the town. I have clipped it down slightly, so we're not using the entire county data set, but you can see we have roads, buildings, we have some transitional waters, absolutely every type of data feature type we have in there. And somewhere within that, a utility or so on sends in a little road opening request. So you can see it there highlighted in red. I'll zoom in a little bit closer. So this is kind of the section of the road highlighted in a red polygon. on a hill street that they want to do a little bit of work on. So the utility will then submit that area or that boundary to a local authority who then kind of have to approve it or output a report on it. What I'm going to look at today is kind of developing the spatial side of the output. So I'm going to receive this polygon by email and put together a little map of the area and highlight some things like schools and hospitals that are close by this road opening, or areas that might be affected by this road being closed for a certain amount of time. So I'll flick back to my workspaces here. This is going to be my main working workspace that is going to do much of the processing. Let's scroll across there. I'll zoom out so you can see the entire workspace. Effectively, I have my loud area here. So this is my source vector data. So this is what I'm going to do a little bit of validation against. And I have a generic email or generic reader here that's going to read my email attachment. That can be any format at all. I think Kieran mentioned that in the slide there. I'm going to I might use a tab file for this example. I'll talk to the rest of the workspace once I run it in a couple of minutes. But in effect, this is it's known as a child workspace, and it's going to get called by another workspace from within FME Server or FME Cloud. And that's my parent workspace here. Again, this is a fairly simple workspace. You can get it from FMEpedia, how to receive an email using email attachments. So you can just download that straight from FMEpedia with some example data and example workspace as well. So this text line reader represents my email that's coming in. We just have a little bit of a JSON flattener here, trim it down a bit, an attribute exposer and so on. You can go through this again in your own time. I'm not going to talk through the entire workspace. The key here is my FME server job submitter. So this transformer calls my my child workspace. In other words, this road openings workspace here. I'll click next. You can see it's connecting to my FME server instance. Go to my folder, select my road openings workspace.
Yeah,
and these are just...
It's catching up a bit. Yeah, the web connection is a bit quicker than you are, yeah. Are you?
So within my child workspace, there are a number of parameters. This source data set is probably the most important one. So this is set to read my email attachment. So when I send an email in, FME Server or FME Cloud has a process to have a look at that email, recognize there's an attachment on it, strip it down, and then run the process on that attachment. Again, I mentioned we can use any format in this example. If you have some restrictions in your local authority and you want to only accept particular formats, you can just select from this list here. This is entirely configurable within the FME workbench. I just threw in some examples here. But I want an FME, in this case, to accept any format. So I'm going to have a guess from the file extension. In this case, it'll be a .tab file. And I'm going to write out a GeoTIFF file, so kind of a raster image into a shared directory for this example. And it's just my kind of loud area .2 data set. I have it saved as a GML file, just for the sake of it, I suppose. I'm going to cancel that because I have all the settings as it should be. I'm going to flick back to my FME server interface. Go to repositories. I already have both workspaces published. You can see this convert road openings. This is the parent workspace, and it's going to call my road openings workspace here. I actually have two of them instances uploaded. It's going to call one of these workspaces, which will then process it and output a TIFF file to my shared directory. So I'm going to flick over to my Gmail account here and put together a very quick, simple email. So FME Server and FME Cloud has the ability to receive emails on particular email addresses. I just created one called road openings @ and then the URL of my FME Cloud instance. Just going to type in road section as that. And I'm going to browse to where I have some data. Yeah, so I'll just use this tab file for the time being. Could be any other format, could be DWG file, KML file. Kieran mentioned the CAD files later on, but I'll use this tab file. also has some kind of associated files with it as well. I'll just give it a couple of seconds to upload there. So turn on my monitoring.
So any of those files, if you did have, we're picking up any file coming through, Tony, but if a local authority did have a standard and said, okay, we only accept AutoCAD files, and it could straight away catch that file if it was something else and bounce it straight back to the utility and say, no, hold on a second, you need to provide us with AutoCAD. But the power of FME Server here is we're actually able to take in any file, so no matter what they'll send in, FME will pick it up and try and convert it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's all done by the use of this generic reader here, so that has the ability to accept any format. In fact, that's entirely configurable when you want to accept particular formats, I suppose.
Yeah. No, it's really, really useful because, again, it takes out that need for somebody to manually get involved. So they can just, the email can come in and someone can catch it, and the service can catch it and move it on, which is really powerful and saves a lot of time.
Yeah, so I had a monitoring turned on my FME Cloud instance here, and this just kind of monitors some topics that I have set up: send email, receive email, and so on. I don't want to go into too much detail on them. I could be explaining them for 10 or 15 minutes, so I don't want to go into too much detail. But if you just look at the text here at the bottom, you can see that it gives some information about the email that I received, so sent to that road openings email address. It gives some information about the attachments, the tab file, other associated files. Subject line was the road section, I typed that in, and the Gmail address that I was received from. So that should have kicked off an FME workspace. So I'll just click my jobs here, and hopefully this will have a run. So you can see a couple of seconds ago, this convert _ RO workspace was called. So this workspace was effectively activated by FME Server receiving an email with an attachment on it. Browse through the log. And I called the second kind of child workspace from within that, called Road Openings 1. So that's this workspace here is doing all the work. I just want to talk through this workspace very briefly. So when I'm reading in my GML file, for the sake of this example, I'm just filtering out some different feature types, so gardens, buildings, some roads, and some kind of public service feature types like hospitals, Garda stations, and schools, and so on. I'm creating a very simple TIFF output rather as a raster file, I suppose. So I'm using my Mapnik rasterizer transformer, which is relatively new to FME. It's really cool. Transformer I've been playing around with a good lot over the last couple of months. And effectively that reads in each feature individually and styles them as per your configuration. So for example, land parcels, I'm going to have them just as kind of an orangey color. Buildings are going to be a different shade of orange. Roads are going to be this kind of grey color. Schools, I'm going to use a PNG file. Briefly show you what these look like in my Explorer here. So I have kind of a red cross for a hospital, Garda for a police station, and at the school sign as well. It's not going to be the most aesthetically pleasing TIFF file, but it should be better in a couple of minutes. And that should have written out to a shared directory. In my case, it's just a local directory. Just refresh that there. Yeah. And this is my output TIFF file. You see, it's also georeferenced, so it includes a tab file and a TFW Word file as well, which will contain some information about coordinate systems. Again, I've done a bit of style and just made it as a bit of a diamond, make things a little bit different. Give that a couple of seconds to open up here. Longer than expected, but we'll leave it a second. It's well worth waiting for. So you can see if I zoom in, the area here in red is the original polygon or bounding area that we submitted. We want to do a bit of work on this road and background on Hill Street. You see I just kind of coloured the roads as kind of a grey colour. Buildings and polygons are this orange and yellow mustard colour. Again, I only use 3 or 4 different features, so we have a lot of blank areas here that might be parks and so on. we go down to the school area, I use that PNG file, so we know that's a school, Garda station, the Garda symbol, and another school up here. And down the bottom I have loads of red crosses just representing the hospital area. So again, it's not really groundbreaking stuff, just creating a raster file. But it shows how simple it is and how easy it is to put together a simple workspace that can split data off an email. Close that down.
But I suppose what that shows is if the person getting that request, he didn't have to open up a GIS application or a CAD application. He didn't have to check the data. It was in the right area. It was converted to a format, and actually he was able to see it against whatever mapping he needed, you know, just as a straight image without any application on his desktop, and all that was automated, and he can make his decision as to whether or not to grant that request or not, and he's got all the data in front of him without actually having to open up a desktop application, which again,
that's
great,
exactly
great
it.
time saver.
Yeah, I guess literally the end user there would send an email and then check back into the shared folder and open a TIFF file. You don't need any software at all to do this, and kind of gives them a bit of a spatial image, I suppose, to make a decision, or even use that as part of a report, maybe.
Yeah, and or of course we've done it as a spatial image here as a raster. We could have outputted that as a KML file and fired it up in Google Maps, or we could have outputted it as a CAD file or any other GIS format, whatever the person needs to see it in. But actually by doing it as a TIFF image, you could stick it straight into a report or into a document or whatever, and the job done, they've done their analysis and they can make a decision. That's really very great time saver.
Do you want to introduce the second demo then?
Yeah, if you flick over to me, Tony, yeah.
Are you on Mandis?
No, Kieran, yeah.
Sorry. I'm sure which machine you're on there.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got it now. Okay, so the second workflow we're going to talk through is the external portal update. So I've mentioned this already, so I won't spend too long talking about it, but in essence, a lot of local government agencies now have to and are mandated by government regulations either at a national level or the EU level to share data via government portals. So they have a problem, which is, you know, how do local authorities do this again, to send the data to differing formats and schemas and ensure it's correct and it's valid. So the solution is to use FME Cloud to actually bring that data out and show it to everybody. So I was going to fire this back to Tony, and he's going to show you the workflow. Okay, so yeah, the idea is to automatically provide the data into whatever schema is predefined, and also ensure that data meets the schema and doesn't break it. All right, over to you, Tony.
Yeah, so I suppose out of the last example I showed, when we submitted the data, we done no validation on it really. We got no email in return, so I'll just speak to my Gmail account. We got nothing back to say that the data was valid or the data was accepted. So this is another little workflow. Anyone that was at FME World Tours back in April or May might recognise some of the workspaces using this. I think Stewart actually put together a couple of them. I'm taking no credit for this workspace. But yeah, effectively, I'm going to use that kind of parent-child relationship between the workspaces again. I'm going to open up this second Convert1 QC workspace, QC for quality control. And this first section of the workspace we recognize as being identical to the last example I showed. But in this instance, I've actually added a little bit onto the end of it. So now we're actually going to email the user. So in this case, whoever submits the data. So I'll talk through this briefly. Again, my FME server calls another workspace. Sorry, my FME server job submitter calls another workspace. This time we're looking at quality control. It's going to do a little bit of validation on the workspace. Set up similar to how we looked at last time. We're guessing the file extension. We can actually read in any file at all. And it's going to read the email attachments as well. And there's a few other parameters there, but I won't go through them in too much detail. And then we're going to send an email back to the end user. So I know I'm using that account today, so I just kind of hard coded that email address in. You can fill in the subject, the message, and we're also going to send an attachment back. This is actually going to be a report, kind of a HTML report, to say if the data was valid and uploaded to a central database somewhere. So that's the parent workspace, and that's going to call this child workspace, which is a little bit more complicated. But again, it's just doing a little bit of validation. So at the top here we have our kind of our shapefile reader. When we send an email, this reader here is going to be replaced by the email attachment. I think we're going to be looking at shapefiles today, contained within a zip file. We have a schema reader here. So this first of all checks that the schema is valid through this kind of conditional feature merger transformer. If the schema is wrong on our source data, everything's going to fail and we'll get a report back saying that. If not, it will pass through to the next test, which is the geometry test. Just check the geometry is valid. Again, a few more tests to make sure that certain attributes exist. In this case, the category attribute must not be empty, so it must contain some values. The zone ID must be an integer. We're kind of flying through this workspace very quickly because I'm sure a lot of people have already seen it before. And then we just have this tester at the end where it checks for any invalid features. So we find invalid features, they could go through this transformer called a no features tester, and we continue through the rest of the workspace to be included in a HTML report. And any features that pass the test, so that are all valid and okay, get written out to this kind of database that can be stored on a central server somewhere. So I'm just going to use a spatial light database for the purpose of this example. And this is our HTML file output then. That will be emailing back in the form of a report. So before I go any further, I just want to flick over to the data sets here that I'm going to be using. I'm going to mainly concentrate on this commercial data set. So you can see it contains, it's actually data from Vancouver in Canada. It contains some information about the zone name and what category it is. So we're in a commercial zone and zone ID as well. And I'll flick to industrial B. You see it's industrial category zone ID and light industrial. You see we have a few red herrings in here that will hopefully be returned in our reports. So without going any further, I'm going to actually send off an email. So this time I have a second email address set up, so not to get confused with my road openings. Example, I'll just call FME server. In the subject line I'm going to put in commercial, and I'm going to attach some data to it. So I have this commercial shapefile here. I also have it in the form of a zip file, which is a little bit smaller and easier to email, so I'm going to use that. Let it upload there for a couple of seconds, and click send. And click over to my monitoring here, which should pick it up. A couple of seconds. I've noticed sometimes this times out a little bit, so give it a second. Yeah, so my receive email picked up the data that I sent in. You can see the subject line commercial and this commercial.zip file that I attached to my email. But in this case, we also found this send email, or we can see the send email kind of notification, I suppose. So this tells us that not only has FME Cloud or FME Server received an email, but it's also sent one as well. I click my jobs for a second. We can see that my convert1 quality control workspace ran, and within that I called a second child workspace. Let's scroll down. Yeah. So you can see it's running the workspace quality control in sync using the child process. So the two workspaces seem to run okay, and they've read in data, validated, and returned an email saying your data has been uploaded. Please see the attached report to check if any data was not valid. And you see there's this little simple HTML report attached with it. So click on that, and again it's very simple, saying all features passed, schema check, everything passed, and there were no geometry issues. Just to prove that that is not just hard-coded. I'm going to actually send one that might have some issues. So I call it industrial. And I'm going to pick this light industrial because it's the smallest file size here. And click send. So while that's working there, let's click on that, make sure it's refreshing it. I'm just going to open up the spatial light database that I wrote, the data 2. Have it here. It's very simple. Browse my data. So one of the areas is the name of the table I wrote, the data 2. And you see all my commercial data was uploaded to that. The geometries is a blob, they're all polygons. Gives information about the zone ID and the zone name and so on. But this time my second workspace should have ran okay. Let's click that, refresh it and check. Yes, that ran a couple of seconds ago. Flick back to my email server. You see that a second email has come through saying data upload complete. I'll download the HTML report, this one. Open that in Chrome again. Yeah, so you can see in this instance then, on the light industrial file that I emailed, I found some issues. So the first one was that the zone ID is not an integer, it's actually a letter A. The category attribute was not present on a couple of examples. So anyone that have an ID of 545 or 927 are going to fail. And also we found some self-intersections. So that's one geometry issue we found. So that's basically a polygon overlapping on top of itself. Yes, that kind of wraps up the second example.
Yeah, and to close the loop of that, okay, you're showing that we've got data that's validated and we're sending an email back saying it's okay and sending an email back saying it's not okay. But actually, on the data that is okay, we could have kicked off another workbench and wrote that data straight out to the a data share or to an FTP location for loading up onto a government portal. So it could have been in Ireland, it could have been something like ePlan, which is the national planning site, or it could be to an Inspire portal. So there's a number of ways you can use this online validation service. And again, it could be at the end to push the data ready, validated out for use on a portal or send it to a government agency or whatever we need to do with it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like once you write to a central database, any applications
Can then take
kind
it.
of access to that. Then, like I just use a very simple spatial light database here, but you can get the ideas behind it. Look.
Oh, that's very good. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to look back?
Yeah, if you give me a present or Tony, yeah, that'd be great. Okay, and so the last example where we see now where the FME cloud and FME can be very useful and can also save a lot of time is on the point cloud data management. So again, currently there is a huge growth of big data, deluge of data coming on stream, and local authorities are now generating and receiving more and more point cloud data. So then the question really comes is how do users across the enterprise and in the field access and utilize this expensive but extremely powerful data. And again, this is where FME and FME can come in to take this point cloud data in LAST format or whatever format it is and make it accessible, convert it, move it around the organization and provide it to users so they can access and analyze the data. And in Tony's example now, he's going to show how we can take a LAST file and actually spit it out to 3D PDF. So I'll give back to Tony, who will show you the last example.
Yeah, so I'm just going to run through this example very quickly. It's kind of stepping away from FME server and FME cloud a little bit. And I kind of got thinking about this example based on the fact that a couple of weeks ago I was talking to a local authority and they're saying that they're collecting up to 25 gigabytes of point cloud or LiDAR data a week. And all that is just sitting on the hard drive and not really being utilized. So at its simplest form, an XYZ file, this basically looks like a bunch of numbers when opened up in a notepad. So I suppose the challenge is how do we get some use out of these, or it's very hard to visualize what data looks like, I suppose, when you open up a notepad. So I like to have a very simple XYZ file for a kind of Dublin city centre area around the forecourts. And in addition, I also got this high resolution aerial imagery in TIFF format. So we zoom in, we can see Dublin City Council offices, forecourts, and the Liffey and so on. So again, it's just kind of an area around the quays there. And in this example, I'm actually going to try and combine the point cloud and this aerial imagery in a very simple, very quick workspace. So this is effectively my workspace. I already have it put together. I'm conscious of a real short in time here, so I'm kind of flying through this one. But effectively I'm reading in my two source data sets. So I have my point cloud XYZ file and that my auto image as well in TIFF format. I just have a point cloud combiner here which merges everything into one single point cloud. And then I have this point cloud on raster component setter, it's a bit of a mouthful, which overlays the point cloud on top of the raster. And then values from each point in the point cloud will be set based on the band values or the RGB values of the overlaying raster or TIFF file in this instance. In this case, the point cloud I'm using, I think it's only, it's not the most high resolution. There's only one or 2 points per square meter. If that could be bumped up to maybe 30 points per square meter, and you get a much more accurate or better resolution output, I suppose. So bear with me when I'm showing you that example later on. It's not the best resolution ever. Well, I have my team generator here, which is basically creating a 3D surface model from a point cloud image. Again, you want some information that, browse down to the help section here. I don't have a whole lot of time to run through it. But I'm using this appearance setter transformer, which is pretty useful. And that's just styling my output tin file by overlaying it with my TIFF image. So it's basically taking the TIFF image and spreading it across my 3D tin generator. And I have a scaler here at the end just to increase it so we can see a little bit higher visibility. And to make things even more simple, I'm going to write this out as a 3D PDF. Very simple. That's a PDF right there, but yeah, it's going to be written out as a 3D PDF. Some of you will notice that I ran this workspace before. It takes like a few minutes to run. We're really short on time. So I kind of prepared this earlier and generated my 3D PDF output. So you can see this the area around Dublin that I showed the imagery for. Dublin City Council offices, forecourts over here. We pan around a little bit, we can see kind of the city is now represented in a 3D model. So this only took me maybe 3 or 4 minutes to put together a workspace, another couple of minutes to run it. So within 10 minutes, I transitioned from just having a notepad file full of these points or figures, a photograph, and now we actually have kind of a 3D model where we can browse around. And this can be taken out of the field as well, utilised on other devices. You have to kind of excuse the resolution there a little bit. The point cloud that I was using is not the highest resolution for the purpose of the demo, just to make things run a little bit quicker. So yeah, that's kind of the third example, or the third demo in a nutshell. I kind of flew through there. I want to leave a bit of time for questions and so on. So it's just an example of how some local authorities or utilities can actually utilise the gigabytes and gigabytes of point cloud data that's been captured on a daily and a weekly basis at the minute.
Okay, thanks, Tony. If you can just throw back to presenter rights again. That's great. So again, we're really just showing, what we've shown today is 3 ways that, with using FME, local authorities can streamline processes, take data, move it into formats that need, use online cloud services, so they don't even have to have the infrastructure on site, and bring the data in and then make it available, easy to use in whatever format, either a spatial format or even in an output image or PDF file. So I think you can really see the power of FME work, of the FME cloud and FME desktop and FME server. So I think Amanda has a couple of questions, so we'll just about, I think, time for a couple more questions. So.
The question is, how do you sign up for FME Cloud?
Okay, well, I think the FME Cloud is available just by going online, and Stewart can come in there. I do know for some of our local authority customers, it is a pay-as-you-go thing, so you do need a credit card. So, providing as a kind of value-add services, we would be happy to set up the FME Cloud instances, develop whatever FME workbenches the local authority needs, and actually then handle the billing and the invoicing with FME Cloud for the local authorities, because I know it's not always that easy for local authorities to be using credit card services, and they'd rather an invoice arrangement. So IMGS for the Irish local authorities are definitely able to do that. Stuart, I got that right?
Yeah, that's spot on, yeah.
Okay.
And then there was another question. Is email the best and only way to get data up to FME Cloud? I think that's you, Tony.
It's Tony or Stuart, yeah?
No, definitely not. You can set up FME Server or FME Cloud to redirect from databases using something like database triggers maybe, or even as a kind of a directory watcher service. So you can have FME Server or FME Cloud keep an eye on particular folders in a shared directory. Maybe someone drops a file or something into one of them folders, and that will automatically kick off a workspace, read into data, and run the same process on it. That's actually an example I considered doing, but I thought the email one was a little bit more high-tech, so I went with that one. Maybe something I'll consider showing in the next webinar.
We also support lower-level protocols like Java Messaging Service and UDP, TCP/IP, WebSockets as well. So they're kind of lower-level protocols that you can use to just pump huge amounts of sensor data into FME Server, which we haven't really talked about.
Yeah. So again, anything on the, when you talk about the Internet of Things or real-life connections, you can have listeners, in a number of different ways, and using the notification service. So it's pretty much, I suppose, Stuart, it's easy to say, it can pretty much pick up data from anywhere, really, isn't it? But there's lots of different ways of getting it in. And
that's what we're going for, yeah.
Well, once you get it in, of the outcome of one workbench, that can then kick off other workbenches, and all these things can be listening and ready to go on the FME server and scheduled to kick off if certain things occur.
Absolutely, yeah. I think automation is the key word around we're talking about that kind of thing.
And a little sneak peek as well, next, sometime soon you'll be able to watch actual cloud services as well. So rather, like the directory watcher that Tony was talking about, you'll be able to actually watch S3 buckets, Google Drive folders, Dropbox folders, and start to basically plug into all of these different cloud storage formats as well.
Okay, so yeah, it really is, and again, that's where having a cloud-based service, having FME server in your cloud works really well. But if people have local data or big data sets, FME server locally is the other option. So we kind of cover both ways and both methods.
One or two more questions. Are those workspaces from the training available to download in order to practice?
We can provide any of the workspaces we've provided today to any of the attendees. We can send them out. I think Mike and Stuart, any of the webinars that you guys do, usually the workspaces and things are up on FMEpedia and things like that?
Yeah, and I believe most of the workspaces Tony built, apart from maybe the last one, I think were derived from workspaces on FMEpedia.
Definitely, definitely the receive and send an email workspaces, they're all available on FMEpedia, and the validation one might be up there as well. I'm not too sure about that, but
I think it is.
It's a great resource for simple workspaces like that.
Okay, and just one more. In relation to data access to FME Cloud, there may be security issues providing access from local servers to the cloud?
Yeah, so do you want me to answer that one?
Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, security in their cloud is obviously a hot topic, especially with the likes of iCloud and such, having issues. But we first thing is we've already worked with a third party out of Silicon Valley who've done a full audit of our architecture and of how we're basically running things at safe. So we've essentially been audited and we've fixed quite a few things. The second thing is, like Kieran was saying, FME Cloud makes sense if you're working with at least one cloud data set. So if you have a terabyte Oracle spatial database locally, then it's probably not worth you using FME Cloud because you want FME server to be as close to the data as possible. So you probably use a local FME server there. But if your data resides in the cloud in any way, or if you're using things like email, all these services that are already in the cloud, then it's worth using FME Cloud. The other thing, we do have security, so you can open up specific ports. So we could open up a port to your local, say, ST database, PostGIS database, and you can lock that port to a specific IP address. So you can say only people within Safe Software IP can connect to this port on the cloud machine, and that's configurable through the web interface. But there's lots to talk about with security, and we are addressing it, and so we'd love to talk to you, or you can talk to IMGS about it, and we'll bring them up to speed as well.
No, that's very good. Yeah, I do think that's the key point is if you have big data, and it's on your local network, you're not going to load up because I think in Ireland we're still subject to very limited broadband network speeds and things like that. But when the data is already flying through the air, then that FME Cloud is perfect. And I think it is horses for courses. If it's a quick process and you only want to do it on demand, then FME Cloud is perfect. But if you're doing big chunking of data, then you're better off with the FME server locally.
Definitely.
Okay. I think that's all the questions we have.
That's all the questions. If anyone thinks of anything afterwards, of course, email one of us.
Okay. Stuart, have you anything else to add at this point?
No, just to say that they were great demos, and I think they gave a really good overview of the capabilities of FME server. So yeah, I enjoyed that. It was good. Thanks.
No problem. Thanks, Stuart. Thanks for your support and help today. I'd like to thank Amanda for arranging things and keeping everything going, and Tony for doing all the hard work. And our next webinar will be on the 22nd of October. We're going to be taking the point cloud discussion a bit further on, and actually, as some of you will be aware, we're also a Hexagon geospatial partner, so we'll be talking about using point cloud data in Imagine and Apollo and how you can manage it and catalog it and analyze it with those kind of tools. And of course, keep an eye out next year. There'll be some nice, I'm hearing some whispers of some nice new tools coming between FME and Imagine and Apollo, so that's something that's coming down the line. So yeah, thanks Stuart again for his time, thanks the guys for helping, and thank you all for attending, and hopefully we'll speak to you next month.
Thanks.
Thanks Stuart, thanks guys.
Thanks.